So my name is Burt Tsuei. I work in the San Francisco Bay Area, specifically San Mateo County, and I've been doing it for 22 years. Owned real estate as an investor. I think that my area is very, very unique in a lot of ways, where we're the engine that runs the U.S. economy, in my opinion. So yeah, that's a little bit about myself.
Is that because there's so much wealth in your area, or you guys are just on the forefront of making stuff happen?
Both, right? I mean, I joke around oftentimes because we're a land of the geeks, man. So this is where highly intelligent people that actually congregate and make tons of money. And this is where you go. Nothing against any other area, but I mean, it's facts, right?
Okay.
Because I mean, we have four of the Magnificent Seven in our area. For the people that don't know, the Magnificent Seven is the seven largest companies that make up the S&P 500. Four of them are located here in the Bay Area.
You named
So,
those just so we know.
yeah, so
What
you
are
have
those for?
Google.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, so the four are Google, Facebook, Apple, and Nvidia. So those are the four that are actually in our area. And if you wanted to include Tesla, they actually started in our area also. So,
Okay.
you almost had five start in our area. So there's a lot of wealth in our area.
Yeah.
So the county that I work in, which is San Mateo County, we are the number, I think last I saw, number three richest county in the country. So that kind of puts things into perspective. And so while running my business is very different from probably a lot of the guests that you guys have. Whereas I can do 15 deals and do really well for myself because our
Yes.
median sales price in our county is probably close to 2.2 million.
Yeah. Well, that's why I was so anxious to have you on because I think that real estate is so local, and yet, like I said, your unit total doesn't have to match mine or Miss Alice or Jody here. Because for me, probably to make similar money, I have to do 40 plus units, which is typically, it's close to my average or just a little below. But you had mentioned the geeks, find their way to California. So I'm sitting here thinking, how did you go from University of Michigan to the Bay Area? How does it, or were you already from there and you just went to school at the university?
Yeah. The funny story about that. So I was born and raised in the area. So my
Okay.
parents were immigrants, and basically when they immigrated to the United States, they said they were never going to be going to a cold weather state, right? And so growing up, I had never seen snow in real life. And so when it was time for me to actually go apply for universities, the funny story is I just picked it based on cold weather and whether or not I was going to get snow. I
Okay.
figured what better time than to figure out if it's right for me than college. So Michigan happened to be the coldest one.
Okay, but that's the craziest thing I've heard because I selected mine on academic reputation, but I also played football. So I had to make sure we had a good football team and yet also, great reputation on the academics because I understood that I was going to be going pro in something other than sports at some point. And i.e., 36 years later, here I am, right? So, and it's funny, my neighbors directly behind me are UM grads. And so when I noticed that, and I'm like, and I see your helmet behind you, and I'm like, okay, that's craziness, but it is what it is. We all have a crazy story. So
For
thanks for
sure.
sharing that one. So tell me this, because I think what I was so curious about is your career before real estate, right? The financial analyst side.
Yeah.
Clearly, I think there's some parallels between that and what you do now. So briefly explain what how the intersection of those two really help you in your real estate career or help you serve your clients better at a high level.
Yeah. And so for me, having that financial background, and I've actually invested in real estate throughout my career. So, like I said, I've been in the business for over 20 years. I invested in real estate at an early age. I bought my first place when I was 24 years old, and that finance background helped me a lot because I was able to leverage that real quickly and buy my third and fourth properties pretty quick. Um, so having that background helps people not only from investing in their primary residence, but also investors as well. Um, Recently, I've gotten away from working with investors because I feel like right now we're getting to a point where it might not be a good time to invest anymore.
Mm.
So, anyways, so that's usually how I help my clients is to look at the financial backing of all their decisions.
So as again, just so we know, because in my mind, being here in the Dallas-Fort Worth area, our homes are extremely affordable compared, and yet we're losing the affordability, I'd say, gap here, even in the DFW, because prices have increased so rapidly, really since COVID. And I've said COVID changed the game forever. How does a young man or a young family, buy two, three, or four homes in the San Fran area? And I know you might not be necessarily in Fran proper, but how does that happen? Because in my mind, we're thinking an investment property for you could easily be 700, a million, 1.5. How does that happen? And
Yeah.
is it even
Well,
true? Are there some affordable pockets there in your area?
yeah, affordable is kind of, you have to say that in quotes, right?
Right, right,
Because affordable from one area versus another area is quite different. And I would say that when I started investing was a little different, right? Because I was able to pick up investment properties for 500,000. Now, you got to remember, this is 25 years ago, right? So it wasn't difficult for me to do that. So and so let me clarify. There's also, you probably remember this because I know you've been in the business a long time, but at that point, when I first started, there was also creative financing. So there was a negative amortization loans that you can't get anymore,
right.
right? And so I would say at that time when I got started, I got into two separate negative amortization loans on two different properties. And that minimized my cost dramatically. That's the way I would put it. And I just kept on leveraging. Now, just like most things, it there's always going to be a consequence. And 2008, 2009 was no different for me.
Yep, yep. That was difficult, and I was fortunate to keep my head above water at that point. And I think I only had at that point, I think I had three. I think I had three, maybe four investment properties at that time, and was fortunate just to have someone in them and who didn't, who still paid the rent, right?
Yeah.
So I know, interesting times. And I can tell you, back, I think it was around 91 or two, you could still do a non-qualifying assumable loan. And I wish that I had picked up 10 properties then, because I bought a home then I bought a home, a three-bedroom home that was only less than 10 years old. I bought it for $750. 750. And
Man.
I put a tenant in it, and I got the deposit and first month's rent. So I made $2,000 on that $750 investment. Clearly the best one I've had, because that property today, it's even in our market, it's worth over 400. And like I said, it cost me 750 to buy. So yay me. So let's do it again, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. All right. Well, let's see. What else? Tell me this. In your current market, what's discomforting to you right now? Something that might you're losing a little sleep over. What are you finding?
Yeah, that's a good question, by the way, Ben. So I would say this is that the disparity between the haves and have-nots is probably my biggest concern. So I actually work with a lot of first-time buyers and they're struggling. Just like the conversation we were having about investment property is no different for a first-time buyer.
Right.
Like for a first-time buyer in our area, I mean, you can do the calculations, but essentially their household income has to be close to 5 to 600,000 in order to afford anything in our area. right? I said the median was 2.2, but starter homes start at 1.7. So for the us, I think that is the greatest problem. At some point, there people just aren't going to be able to afford even the starter homes. So
Right.
that is my biggest concern, and that keeps me up at night.
Again, I can't even imagine that. So, because here in Dallas Fort Worth, I mean, at 1.7, you're looking at a really, really nice property, not a basic starter home at all. And that's just not my market, but it is what it is. So,
Eh,
uh,
I want to give you a even bigger perspective, right? And when I say 1.7 in a decent neighborhood, I mean some of these areas we're talking about 3 bedroom, 1 bath, 1,000 square feet homes.
I get, I
Yeah,
don't, I'd have to sell everything I have in order to buy a nice home in your area. I mean, nice, right? And not willing to do it. So, uh,
I get it. I get
yeah,
and see that, but that's the whole thing about real estate, it it might not be your jam, right? And
yes.
that's okay. And that's why it's local, right?
Mm, mm. So here's something crazy. With all of my visits to your area, and again, I told you I'm probably coming, and I made the joke to a friend that, and I think it's in June. And I'm probably coming through the airport there in San Fran or in that general area, right? Um, I might need to stay at your house for a day, and I know you got two or three kids, so that may not be possible,
That's all right. We have space on the couch. You come
right?
on through.
I don't have a problem sitting on the couch either, sleeping there because we did it as young people. I'm not too good for that. I'm just saying. But okay, here's the crazy thing: you leave that area to go to University of Michigan, right?
Yeah.
One of the coldest summers I ever had was in your area. So how do you guys deal with? I'm sitting here going, the reason why y'all dress the way you do, and I used to think, what kind of fashion statement is this? They might be wearing shorts, but then they've got a jacket tied around their waist, and I'm like, I know why, because I'm sitting here going in the evenings. We took a bus tour in your area, across the Golden Gate and all that, right? I think near Alcatraz. And my wife and son couldn't handle it. They had to go to the bottom of the bus, and I braved it out, sitting next to a stranger that I didn't even know. And she and I were huddled up together. I'm sitting there going, this is craziness. How do you deal with the ups and downs of that weather? And I'm like, again, and it was
Yeah.
damn cold, Bert. That's all I'm telling you. Go.
Yeah, I don't blame you. I understand. But only the locals will understand this is that in the summertime, the fog line rolls in real early. And so for tourists or people coming from out of town, it's surprising, right? But for us, we actually enjoy it because if you're going through the day and it's 80, 90 degrees, it's like Mother Nature's air conditioning.
Yeah. So do you again, I haven't visited many homes there. Do all the homes have AC? Because I can tell you in Seattle, Washington, I was blown away, right? That even really nice properties in Seattle don't have AC. And I was blown away because my in-laws' home was that way. And again, we're talking, this was 35 years ago, and that home then was worth, more than a half a million and with no AC. And I thought, what the hell is this all about coming from Dallas Fort Worth, right?
Yeah.
I didn't understand it, but there was only a few times where you were like, it's damn hot in here, but they did have some ceiling fans. So again, Mother Nature's natural AC is what you said. So there you
It's
go.
changing. It's changing, right? We have global warming that's happening right now. So, yeah, when I started in business, I would say maybe 10% of the properties had AC. Now it's probably getting to closer to like 30, 40%.
That's wild. Well, I think as Monique is on here too, and Christina, we're like, wait a minute, here in Texas, you got to have some damn AC or you might die.
Yeah, yeah, I
Oh,
get it.
that's crazy. All right, here's something crazy. Are you a Warriors fan?
Oh, hell yeah.
Okay, okay, all right. Are you familiar with E40?
E40.
Yeah.
No, what is that?
Okay. Okay. So E40 is he's like the hip hop artist who's always at courtside. He's got all the bling. 840 was really popular. When I was coming up, I got so much of his stuff, some of his songs. So I was just curious if you if you
Not
knew who
E40.
840 was. Yeah.
Uh,
So keep your eyes open. Trust me, he's always at courtside, and he's
wait,
such a
wait. Tell me some of his music.
I
Because
can't.
we're about the same age.
Right. Well, who I think Who Dat or something like that is one of his biggest ones.
Okay.
I mean, I could play it. It's the jam. I'm just telling you because in my day, you break out some E40 and you can't get to the dance floor. So,
Got it.
hey, but when I stop by your place, man, I'm gonna play some E40 for you. So I'm just saying,
Do that.
I
Do that.
will.
I'm actually going to be looking that up because
Oh yeah,
I
yeah,
think I
yeah.
know who you're talking about, but I never looked up his music. So I'm going to have to look that up.
What's crazy? I'm sitting here in Dallas Fort Worth, right? And I'm a Mavericks season ticket holder. But
Oh,
Golden
I'm
State is my
sorry.
favorite. I
I'm
know, right?
sorry.
But again, Golden State is my favorite team because I'm a Curry fan. I'm just telling you. So, all right. You know what? Our time is growing short, Bert. So, give me a nugget for someone, again, long tenured time here in the business. Give me something that a new or a veteran agent can use and walk away and go, oh, that's good info. Give me something.
Yeah. So I had to give this a little thought earlier. And I'd say this is figure out your pillars, right? So my good friend Caroline Whoa, who's the luxury ambassador, right? I think you know her, talked about the four pillars. And so here's what I would say. In the course of my career, I have seen cycles go through, right? And you've seen cycles, right? So when I first bought my first house in the 90s, that cycle was my business was predicated on investors that are coming from overseas. That's when China started to open up. So that was my sort of niche. I got hurt because I wasn't focusing on the fundamentals because the next cycle that occurred, probably like around the 2000s, you saw the people that had the pillars that were working with subprime lending, right? That group of people, those agents were very, very successful. Then obviously we had the Great Recession, and the people that were working with the foreclosures and the short sales. I mean, I know agents that were working that niche and were making millions,
Mhm.
right? And so now we're kind of getting into hyper targeted marketing on social media right now, and that's the niche. My point is this is that make sure to have like the fundamentals. Like we're all supposed to do the three L's. We have to hit our database, we have to do farming, we have to do, all the basics, but always have separate levers so the next wave that actually occurs, you can ride that out. So I don't know what that next wave is, but we should all be looking for that next wave so that we can capitalize on it.
Right. And it's so funny for me. I feel like one thing is it's a real growth opportunity for me is this right here, social interaction and utilizing the social platforms. I feel like I've done a subpar job at it, and for 2025, my plan is to step up and be a little more present, but also make sure that I'm bringing real value, not just putting stuff here because I don't need to just see myself, right? So, what's in it for the consumer is kind of the premise that I work from. And if you're listening to this, or I'm listening to a Hook Point right now, I believe is the book, and it's all about that 3 second capture to stop the scroll, right? So I'm like, they're not going to stop scrolling simply because I'm showing a beautiful home at 700,000. That doesn't do it today, right? So there's an opportunity for me. So if you have any suggestions, anybody here, feel free. I'm an open book, and you can teach this old dog new tricks all day long. So thank you for that.
Yeah, Ben, I just have to compliment you. I love your platform. You provide such good information, and the guests that you get are truly top notch. I don't know if your viewers actually know the people that all come on, but I can't believe the quality of people that you get on is so primo. And I wish I can join in a little bit more, but because of the time difference, I always have the kids and have to drop them off. But I always try to catch your interviews and enjoy them. So thank you.
Thank you for that. And I think it's because sometimes I'm tenacious because when there's someone that I want on, because I can tell you there are two people on right now that are coming up in the next month or so. Because I'm just curious as to what makes them tick and their business. And this whole thing started really during COVID. I wanted to know what are other top professionals doing that I'm either not doing, I can incorporate into my business, or that's their velvet rope, right? That being said, Burt is Burt, what's one single task as we get ready to go? What's one single task that you're pretty damn good at? What does that look like?
I would say knowing the market is my key. Knowing the market, not
Okay.
only from a micro level, but a macro level as well. My background's in finance, right? So I geek out on all the financials of what's going on in the market, even from the economy level. It just kind of something that I'm really interested in. And so when I'm able to like articulate it and also talk to it about it with my clients, most of them find it very helpful.
Well, that's good information. So let me ask you this again without being getting too political. Are you finding the political shift affecting your area, affecting things in your area or not?
That's a good question, and I would say so. One of the things I'll tell you what I do in order to stay hyper local. What you're doing right now, I do from a local level. So I do these interviews with local politicians, city council, and with mayors. In fact, I have a mayor coming up, I think 2 weeks from now, and then I have a city council member this week coming to talk with me. And this is how I keep my content very local.
Okay.
And anyways, that is one of the concerns that a lot of the local politicians have is that from the federal level, they're actually preventing a lot of funding for some basic things like paving streets, funding particular schools. And again, I'm not trying, just like you're saying, I'm not trying to get political, but at the end of the day, the with all the cuts, California is actually being affected quite a bit.
I could see it. And I think your governor, it's going to be interesting to see how things shake out. You know, here in Texas, I don't necessarily agree, but it is what it is. And I just keep telling my audience that, you know what, we're just going to put our head down. We're going to put our head down, and we're gonna continue to serve at a high level and do you be authentic and know that you're going to attract those who appreciate what you bring to the table. Um, your integrity, your honesty, and just keeping it real. So let's go and let's just handle our business because somebody needs our help. And I typically end the call every week saying the same thing. I mean, somebody needs our help, and it's our responsibility to go find them and serve them at a high level. So
Most definitely.
you keep doing you and being you in that in San Mateo, San Fran area, brother. And so I appreciate you jumping on for a few minutes. And I told you it's quick, man. I mean, 10:30 hits and it's almost 11 o'clock. And I'm like, damn, okay, it's about time to go. We've got things to do, right? So
Well, thank you,
anything else,
Ben.
anything else you want to leave us with? Or you're good. Let's go.
No, no, I am. The only thing I would say is obviously if you guys have anybody looking in my area in San Mateo County and San Francisco area, hit me up. Reach out to me also. I actually enjoy talking to agents from other areas. I'm happy to share my experience. If you guys want to know a little bit about how I got connected with politicians, how I run my
I'm so curious
business.
about that, Bert. I'm just telling you because I'm sitting here going, I've not had a politician on, and I love that. So I'm sitting there going, all right, we might make that effort to get a local. It's crazy here in Frisco. You're in the San Fran, but here in Frisco, Texas, the mayor of that city is a former KW agent. He's still an agent, but not with us anymore.
Mhm.
And so I'm thinking I might be able to get Jeff on or some other local, officials on. So we're going to make that effort.
Oh, you definitely should, by the way. And it definitely helps your algorithms quite a bit because
Yeah,
you're focusing on your local area. So,
right,
highly recommended. Reach out. I mean, not all politicians want to talk to realtors,
right.
but hey, doesn't hurt to ask.